Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a really special day because I've got Bernardo Faria on the line. Bernardo is a multiple-time world champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Pan Am champion, but he's also a super nice guy. He's also my friend, and he's also a really good instructor, and he can really articulate issues and techniques and strategies in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we're going to pick your brain till it bleeds today, Bernardo. I hope that's okay.
Hi, Stephan. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Yeah, as I said, I think first time we talked was 2 years ago, and it was a great friendship that I made with you, and I'm looking forward for this podcast.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, I got to warn you in advance. I sent an email out to my email newsletter asking what questions people had for you, and I'm just getting hammered with emails. You'll hear them coming in. I want to have the notification so I can see them come in. But I hope you have a lot of time and you can talk very, very quickly. Because
let's do it.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of questions. But first of all, how's your training going?
Man, my training is going well. I started training hard in January. Now that I'm kind of getting older, right? Tomorrow, actually, on Sunday, 29 January, I'm turning 30.
Oh, happy birthday.
I'm starting to get old here, so nowadays I'm trying to balance my training a little better. Before, when I was young, I would train like 12 months super hard. Nowadays, I'm trying to train for example, this year I might compete only the worlds. So I'm starting to train hard right now, but I'm going to try to train super hard like in May, April, and March. So I'm not that hard yet. But I already started. I started on January 1st. And I hope in June I'm 100% ready.
What does super hard mean? Just for context for people, does that mean training twice a day? Does that mean training 6 days a week?
Nowadays I try to train twice a day, and but right now, for example, I'm training let's call 6 or 7 times per week. My goal is to train 9 or 10. So I hope in April and May, I'm doing 9 or 10. This includes physical conditioning, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. So nowadays, I haven't restarted the wrestling yet. So I'm doing pretty much 5 jiu-jitsus and 1 or 2 physical conditionings per week.
Okay.
And during the training, I'm training as hard as I can, going super hard against everybody. So always picking the toughest guys on the mat to train with. So that's what I try to do.
So what did training look like before January? Because you were still training. You were still teaching. You're still training. You're still doing seminars. What
I was doing, as I said, before, I used to train 12 months, as I was saying. Nowadays, after the worlds, for example, I was training with my students, and there were some days that I was not even training. I was training probably 4 times per week with my students. Whenever I see the tough guys on the mat, John, Mateus, Marcelo, and Marcos, I was not even calling them to roll. So I was trying to train more with blue, purple belts, just to keep my body rolling and make sure I would not push my body too much. Now, since January, all the classes I'm doing, I'm always trying to train to roll. I'm always trying to roll with Marcelo, Mateus, John Satava, Manchi, Marcos, all these guys. So if you train with them one after the other, in the end of the row, in the end of the training, you're not feeling that good.
What's funny?
I joke with that.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I joke with that. It's always a humble day because sometimes you do well against somebody and then the next one come and kick your ass really bad. So you are always humble.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about mostly training with, blue belts and purple belts. So some people think that, you always see those guys. They always come in. There might be white belts. There might be blue belts. They always want to train with the black belts and they always just want to go against the toughest guy in the room. But I always say that you should, also spend time going against easier people because that's where you can develop your new technique. That's where you can try stuff out.
I agree. Well, it's funny because it was hard for me to accept that. I think from white to black belt, I was always training with the toughest guys. Every day always picking the toughest guys on the mat. But man, at some point your body cannot handle that anymore, you know. So I started doing this, going against like the easier guys, probably like 1 or 2 years ago. It was not too long. But nowadays I feel I have to do that, because if not, my body's already falling apart, you know. So I gotta mix. But I agree 100% with you, because when you train only with the tough guys on the mat, your best positions is gonna become very good, but it's gonna be hard for you to come up with like new stuff.
Yes,
because it's hard for you to try new stuff, you know. So
because you get smashed if you make the slightest mistake.
Exactly. If you try some little thing there, you get completely smashed, you know. So I agree 100%.
Yeah. So it gives you a safety margin. So you go, oh, this totally screwed up, and the guy passed my guard, but I can still get out and put the guy back in my guard and try it a second time. So do you know?
Yeah.
Do many other champions train that same way and have like the periods of easy training and the periods of hard training? And do you think this is pretty normal for sort of new guys or young guys to just train super hard all the time, and then for guys who are ancient like you? Which I'm laughing at because I would, chop my arm off to be 30 again. But for ancient guys like you, do you find this is a common pattern for high level competitors?
I mean, like jiu-jitsu, we don't see that much yet about like this perfect way of training. This, I mean, like this very high level like studies of what you should do. That's the best thing. Like for example, when you are from like some soccer team, there is like pre-season, then there's season, then there's this. Jiu-jitsu, many times you see like this season is like 12 months and they kill themselves for 12 months. I think nowadays you're starting to see this a little more, you know. For example, one day I was talking with Lucas Lepre, and then he was telling me that he was not even doing physical conditioning in the second semester, that he was training like just to train, you know, not to kill himself. So I think it's starting to become more and more and more professional, you know, because we are seeing that to hit the peak of our level, we gotta balance a little more, you know. But there are always exceptions, you know. For example, Marcelo, his theory was like train twice a day, 12 months, you know. So it depends. I think as everything in life, there is no formula, you know. You gotta figure out your own formula, and if it's working for you, you keep going, and if it's not working for you, you try to change the formula until you find the formula that's gonna work.
Experiment.
Exactly. Testing stuff. Yeah.
All those pings are more emails coming in with questions for you, which we'll try and start getting to in a minute here.
Okay.
Well, as we're talking, it occurs to me that maybe this is a little bit equivalent to all those MMA guys who are no longer training with heavy head contact, right? They're either only punching pads, or they're doing super light sparring. But the days of, I punch you in the head as hard as you can, and you punch me in the head as hard as you can. They're worried about brain damage. You're worried about sort of orthopedic damage. But it seems like the two sports, it's a parallel thing maybe, where the senior
I think
people are trying to figure out how to train without literally killing themselves.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I remember like one day in my hometown, I was talking to one guy that he used to do marathon. Not even marathon. He used to do this like what's the name when they do like triathlon?
Okay.
No, that
ultra marathon.
That thing that's like a super. That's kind of like for heroes that they run like hundreds of kilometers, then they swim. And he was like, man, there is no way to train for that, you know. So for example, there's no way I can run like 50 kilometers per day. So what I gotta do is like run 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever. And I think it's for example, MMA, if you train the way you're going to fight every day, you're going to end up not fighting, you know, because you're going to break yourself. So I think we got to be like smart at this point, you know, like to figure out what's the best way to train to hit the goal, to achieve the goal, to accomplish the goal.
But maybe the right formula, there is no formula, but maybe the right formula is that you have to go through a phase of that stupid hard, crazy hard training. Like maybe you wouldn't be the world champion that you are if you hadn't gone through that phase of just fighting all the super hard guys for, a period of 5, 6, 10 years. And similarly, the MMA guys, wouldn't have got there.
I think that makes sense. I agree. I agree with you because when I was on that phase, to train crazy hard for 12 months, I was like 21, 22, 23, 24, so my body could handle that. So I agree with you 100% that there's a big chance that for you to get there, you gotta pass by this crazy phase.
Yeah. Let's get to some of these questions. Like I said, there are quite a few, and hopefully I want to get to as many as we can. The first, I'm cherry picking here because the guy's a friend of mine. So Jeff Paul asks, what advice would you give to white belts with regards to what they should be focusing on when they're just starting out? So if some guy's just starting out, what's your best advice for a brand new jiu-jitsu beginner?
Oh, cool. Well, it's funny because I just made one video talking exactly about this for my YouTube channel like 1 or 2 weeks ago. But anyway, what I said is like, I think I would say like from the first day of jiu-jitsu until the 365 days, I'm joking, until like the first year, you should focus only on fundamentals, that's my opinion at least, I remember when I started jiu-jitsu, my first teacher, he would put me to do like a 20 scissor sweeps to one side, 20 to the other side, then my partner 20 to one side, 20 to the other side, then I would come back 20 armbar to one side from the guard, 20 armbar to the other side in the guard, then my partner the same thing, then I would do 30 toreanos. So I believe that the fundamentals in the first year of jiu-jitsu is super important. It's even a little bit annoying, I know, like you go train and you do a bunch of scissor sweeps on side, scissor sweeps to the other side, toreano, armbar. But at the same time, jiu-jitsu is new for you, so that's not going to be that annoying. I couldn't handle do that anymore. I wouldn't. But if jiu-jitsu is new for you, I think it's going to be even fun, And because if you know the fundamentals really well, it's not that hard to learn the rest of jiu-jitsu, If you know the fundament, if you understand like that, you're gonna learn close guard, then you're gonna open a guard, then you're gonna put start putting like hand on the collar, then foot on the biceps. When you see you're doing the berimbolo, you got there. You learned all the fundamentals, and then it's not hard to learn this new crazy technique. It's like berimbolo, 50-50. But if you try to jump right away to those techniques, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, like, what's this? I'm going to roll underneath here. So I really believe that's really important to focus on fundamentals. What do you think, Stephan?
I agree, but it's also interesting. I bet there are techniques that we now consider fundamental that 20 years ago people didn't think fundamental. I know the example I always use is in whitewater kayaking. 40 years ago, if somebody flipped upside down in a rapid and they rolled up, using the Inuit, the Eskimo roll or the kayak roll, people would stop and applaud and cheer and freak out. Oh my God, the guy did a roll. Now you've got kids who can do a roll. Well, actually, as of like 10, 15 years ago, you had kids who they could only roll and they didn't know anything else. They didn't know how to paddle. They didn't know how to brace. And that became a new fundamental, and it elevated the level of kayaking hugely. So I think I agree with you, but I also think that sometimes fundamentals change. I mean, back in the old days, I have friends who trained at Hickson's in the 80s and 90s, and they were told basically, why would you ever open the guard? Never open your guard. And
I agree with you. I know what you mean. Like, that makes sense. I was not thinking like for this side, but that makes sense. Even the fundamentals changed a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think is an example of a new of something that's fundamental now that might not have been fundamental?
Yeah, I followed the Alliance curriculum, right? And there are some techniques in the fundamentals that I learned as a black belt.
Okay.
I mean, like, because I moved there when I was black belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved to Alliance when I was already black. So what you were saying makes sense. That even like jiu-jitsu is growing so much that I think the way of learning is being developed, And even like the fundamentals of today might be more like complete or more. I don't even know how to say, but more developed than the fundamentals that was considered fundamentals like 20 years ago. So that makes sense. But I think it's part of the jiu-jitsu growing, you know. I mean, like, people are finding better ways to teach jiu-jitsu. People are finding better ways to teach the guy who's starting jiu-jitsu in the first 2 weeks, first month. So I agree with you. And but I think it's a good thing. It means that jiu-jitsu is growing, and even the teaching aspects of jiu-jitsu is getting better.
Is there anything that you wish you'd done as a white belt that you didn't do? I mean, it sounds like you had a really good foundation as a white belt. Is there anything that you wish you'd done or wish you'd known?
I don't think so, because I never thought about it. So I think probably not.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think so. Oh, there is one thing. Sorry, I wish I had done more judo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might have torn your body up more, though.
Yeah.
All of my big injuries, all of them come from. I love judo. I did judo for a long time, but man, my body is. How are you finding judo on your body? I know you're doing it fairly regularly.
Yeah, it's tough. It hits the body, and I think even the judo class is tougher than jiu-jitsu, because, for example, if someone tap it, you just tap. In judo, if someone tap you, it's gonna be the ippon, right? And if the guy does on an ippon, you fell like boom. It's not good. And so I think judo, it is more aggressive to the body than jiu-jitsu. But I wish I had done more judo, you know, because I mean, like, nowadays to learn judo, if I had learned judo right in the beginning when I was 14 years, today I would be a very good level standing, you know.
Yes.
And nowadays I gotta pull guard every match or wait someone to pull guard. I cannot be standing for too long.
Well, I haven't done the analysis of all the matches that you've had since black belt. What percentage have you pulled guard in, and what percentage of people pulled guard on you? Do you have any idea? Half and half, or?
In the beginning, I was the one pulling guard every time. And then I think I started know about the half guard. And then I think some guys were like, oh, I better pull guard first. And then I think people start pulling guard more against me. But I don't know the right numbers and the right percentage. And it's funny because if I check my computer here, somewhere I have reading all my matches during all my career.
Okay.
If I won, if I lost, how was, so I'm pretty psycho about that, but I don't have this number.
Oh, well. So when you go out to compete, what makes, I don't know if you can reveal your secret formula for whether you pull guard or whether you stay on top. If you're going against some guy, I guess you know who, at your level, you know who you're going against.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we make a plan, you know. I mean, like, I'm going to fight against someone. I know pretty much who is the guy, and I make my own plan, you know. And but I always keep in mind that the plan can change anytime, you know, because maybe, for example, oh, man, I'm going to pull guard against that guy, and then he pulls. Right. So I got to deal with that. And sometimes I make my plan, I start my plan, and the plan doesn't work as well. So it's part of the game. Well,
to quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. Right.
I have a quote for jiu-jitsu. It's pretty much the same. But in jiu-jitsu, everyone has a plan until you get tired. When you get tired, there's no plan anymore. It's just surviving model.
So we've got Bernardo Faria and Mike Tyson. Well, yeah. So you need the facial tattoo next. I think that's a good idea. No. No facial tattoos?
No.
Okay.
I don't have.
No? Maybe I'll talk you into it. Okay. Gurjot asks, what's your favorite choke from side control? And you've finished a fair number of matches from side control. So what's your favorite choke from side control?
It's the scarf choke.
Okay.
It's one I used in the finals of the Pan Am's Open Class 2015 against Leandro.
Yes. That was a big win.
Yeah, that's my favorite, and I like it a lot. I always say that in my seminars, on my DVDs, on my instructions, that I don't know if it's because I'm heavy or I don't know if it's because I'm not too much talent in jiu-jitsu or whatever, but I don't like too much the submissions that if I miss it, I lose everything. So for example, I don't like to go to the side control and right away try some armbar, and then if the guy escapes, he ends up on top trying to pass my guard. So I love the scarf choke because if it works, great, but if it doesn't, I still in the north-south. So I still in the side control.
Right.
So this is my goal.
Jay Proven asks, and I'm interested in this as well, in the last week before you compete, in the last week of the Worlds, right? If the Worlds is if you're competing on a Saturday, what are you doing for the last 7 days? Are you training at all? Are you doing any conditioning? Are you doing mental rehearsal? Like, what's that last week look like?
Yeah, honestly, this is the week normally I'm more worried, because this is the week like that you already got all your work done. You did the hardest part, and now you have not too much to improve because you're not gonna get better in 1 week.
Right.
And all you have is the risk to blow up all your training. So I had in 2015 my best year. I had a very bad experience. I won the Pan Am's double gold. I won the World's double gold. Then when I went to compete the ADCC, look this. I had done all my training. I was very well trained. Then Fabio Gurgel invited me to make a seminar in his school in São Paulo. And then the ADCC was on Saturday, and I made the seminar on Wednesday. Stephan, Fabio asked me, Bernardo, do you want to row? I was like, no, I'm 100% ready. I don't want to have the risk of getting hurt. Stephan, I swear to God, I was showing a double leg. I was showing a technique. The guy fell over my leg. I broke my foot 2 days before the ADCC. I was not even training. Yeah. So I was just like teaching.
And no time to recover.
Yeah, I couldn't compete. I broke the foot. So this last week I always try to be super careful. Normally I train when the tournament's a big deal. For example, the Worlds. I try to train Monday, Tuesday, and that's it. I rest Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I compete on Saturday. And then even Monday and Tuesday, I train like once a day only, and I try to train like completely without ego. Like if you feel that, I try to be super careful with my body, because that's the most dangerous part. You train for 1 year, you are ready, you are super well prepared, and if you get hurt on Monday or on Tuesday, if you hurt your finger on Monday or Tuesday, it's gonna bother in the tournament. Yeah. So this last week I always try to be super careful, and I keep training, I keep moving my body, but I don't go crazy. And normally I rest for 3 days when the tournament's big, like Worlds or something like that.
So are you gonna do ADCC again?
This year, I'm opening my school in the Boston area, in Bedford, and I'm opening my school. My plan is right after the Worlds, so I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna do the ADCC. The ADCC is gonna be in September, so I gotta see first if I'm gonna get invited, and second how it's gonna be my days going. And everyone says that the worst month ever to open up school, it's June, July, and August because the summer. But that's I had to choose or I train really hard here at Marcellus and I open the school after the Worlds in June, or I open before, but then would mess up my training for the Worlds. So I'm gonna do the Worlds and open the school in June, and there we go.
Oh well, congratulations on opening your school.
Thank you.
So Boston area. I don't know Boston. I've been in Boston a few times. It's a beautiful city. How far is Bedford from downtown Boston?
I think it's 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
And the location I'm picking is a very good location. It's walking distance to Whole Foods and Marshalls, a bunch of good stores nearby. So Starbucks. So I think it's a very good area. There's a very big parking lot. So I'm excited.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's very exciting news, and I hope it goes super well.
Thank you. I hope I wait for your visit.
Steve wanted to know if you ever do any, in training, if you ever do any training with slapping or punching, basically to simulate like self-defense situations? My guess would be no, because you have to focus almost 100% on competition at this point. But have you ever done that, or do you ever do that?
No, I mean, like, at some point in my career, I was helping some MMA guys, so I got some experience, and I did kind of like sparrings and punching and kicking, this and that. And when I was like 15 or so, I have done like 1 year of Muay Thai, so I have some idea. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I like doing sometimes is, sometimes when I'm teaching the warm-up, I do some self-defense moves, and I don't ask them to punch each other, but I ask them like to, guys, let's try to make it as more real as possible. So imagine you're going to punch him and he has to do this and this move. So, because I think it's important, you learn jiu-jitsu and you understand how is the reality as well. I mean, like, if someone tried to fight against you on the street, the guy's not going to pull guard, he's going to try to punch your face. So I think it's good. Sometimes I like to do that in the warm-up, just for everybody, like, get aware of what can happen and how can we use jiu-jitsu, So, but I always try to focus, like, very, very in the basics, like, for example, guys, if someone tries fighting against you and he's trying to punch you, the goal here is to close the distance. If we have a distance, it's dangerous for us because he can punch, he can kick. If you are able to close the distance, then we are bringing them to our world. So things like that, not too much like a crazy details about the techniques, more like the concepts of what you should do and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be so you're anti-pulling inverted guard on the street.
Yeah, no, you cannot do that. I cannot play deep half guard on the street.
Well, Minotauro did pull it off. I think it was in his fight against Tim Sylvia. I just finished writing an email saying how, this guard is good for self-defense. This guard is good for self-defense. The deep half guard, I'm not so sure about. Maybe somebody will make it work someday. And then I think a month or two later, Minotauro went out and pulled it off in MMA.
I read an article saying that showing the percentage of sweeps that works better in MMA, and half guard was the number one, So, yeah, I think half guard is a good one because you end up in the single leg many times, So it's a great way to finish. But definitely, like, the Bolos would be tough to play.
I did see a guy pull off the Baron. All these videos that we're referring to, I'm going to try and put in the article. So if people go to grapplearts.com and search for Bernardo Faria, they'll find like the second interview. I'll try and find the video for the guy pulling off a berimbolo in an MMA situation. I think he tripped or got knocked down and ended up, or the guy was passing his guard and he berimboloed and ended up in a rear bear hug standing. So just as we say that, there's a guy who's pulled it off.
I think always there are exceptions, like there is no rule like, it's never gonna work. But I think it's not that common.
No.
But man, we see like I watched some match from Ryan Raw. Man, he was pulling guard, pulling the 50-50 and doing heel hook. So you can always make things work. So, yeah. But if I had like 100 students of MMA, I would not tell the 100 to pull and try to do the berimbolo. If maybe one in the 100 start doing that and do that well, okay.
Could you do me a favor, Bernardo, and turn your microphone around because I'm seeing the blue light poking.
Oh,
there
sorry.
We go. No, it's very. There's a demon in your house. So you mentioned the half guard. What drew you to? And you're known for your killer half guard, your knee shield and your deep half. What drew you to that position as opposed to, I don't know, the Dilla Spider or some other crazy type of guard or closed guard? Why the half guard?
Why I started doing half guard?
Yeah.
Man, it was one of those things that I don't even know how to explain really well, because I remember the day I learned my first half guard sweep. My first teacher, Ricardo Marques, that the one who gave me all my belts, and it's like a brother or father for me nowadays. He was that type of guy that he would not teach only his game. So his game was more like close guard and open guard, going to De La Riva, foot on the biceps, things like that. But he was that type of guy that he would show everything when he's teaching. So one day he showed like the half guard sweep, the single leg one. That you grab the lapel, I would bump the guy's butt with my knee, come up in the single and finish. He showed that position, and I think when I started jiu-jitsu, I had a really hard time like finding something that works for me, you know. And I was that type of guy that I fast realized that there was like 10,000 techniques in jiu-jitsu, but I would never be able to be good on those 10,000. So I always try to find, like, I want to find one thing that works for me always. So I remember when I was white belt, all I did was, in all my tournaments as a white and yellow belt, I would jump in the close guard and try to do that sweep going to the belt that you end up on the mount, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was doing that well, but at some point I couldn't close the guard anymore. Nobody let me close the guard. So then I was like, man, I got to find another position. I got to find another position that works for me. But it was always hard, you know, like spider guard was not flexible. Butterfly never worked for me. I don't know why. I don't know if I didn't have like the talent to handle all those things that you gotta handle. Or then half guard was easy, you know. I was like, man, I'm gonna lock this guy leg between my legs, and then I go from there, you know, and figure out something from there. And the half guard was the easiest one I found, you know. And then I started doing. Nowadays, I love half guard, and I do some close guard as well. So I have my yellow belt game, my white and yellow belt game, and my blue belt game, the half guard. And the deep half guard started doing as a purple belt. So my jiu-jitsu is pretty much white, blue, and purple belt.
Except it works against the best people in the world at the highest level of competition in the world. We should point that out just before people start. And then, of course, you're also known for the over-under pass and the passes that come off of that. So you've got sort of one or two or maybe three guard positions and a couple of sweeps. What drew you to the over-under pass? Is it just how well it works with the deep half?
It was pretty much the same concept. Like knee cut never worked for me. I never felt comfortable in that position. I was always falling down and get swept from the cut. Toreano, I saw that works well, but if the guy has the foot on the biceps or if he has the lasso, there is no Toreano from there. So once again, I was like, I gotta find one position that works for me, you know. Then I remember when I was yellow belt, one guy from my hometown, that nowadays he's black belt, but at that time he was blue belt. I remember even his nickname was Coke, because he used to work in the soda Coke in the company. And one day, he showed me this position. He was like, man, look at this passing here. You got to go over one leg. You got to control the leg. You got to control the hip. You got to jump the leg, and you pass the guard. And then I started doing it. I started feeling very comfortable. And the over-under matches with the half guard. Because most of the times you finish a half guard sweep, you are in the over-under. And most of the times I get swept from the over-under, I end up in the half guard. So they're related. It's not like if I get swept from, for example, from the knee cut, I don't even know where I'm going to fall. Maybe I'm going to fall in the folding pass, or if I get swept, doesn't make sense. If I get swept from close guard, I might end up in the mount on bottom. But the over-under, most of the times I get swept, I'm on the half grip because I have the guy's leg over there. So everything matches like really well, you know, like over-under and half grip and over-under. And I didn't plan that, but one of the reasons that my instructions are doing very well online, it's because one time in one seminar, one student told me like, Bernardo, in my opinion, your game is the best game for the older guys. Because you can slow down your opponent with the half guard, and when you are on top, you can slow down your opponent again with the over-under. And then I was like, man, I never thought about it. And then I started thinking, I was like, that makes sense, you know, I mean, that's true. Because when you start getting old, it's tough to do like spider guard, you gotta be flexible. It's tough to do berimbolo, you cannot go upside down. Even butterfly, in my opinion, so many things to deal with, you know. You gotta have like a very good speed to deal, like break this grip, go there, go here. Half guard is pretty slow down game. Pay attention, like most of the times you see like a 55 years old guys on the mat, he does half guard. And then I started realizing that's true. Like, and then I asked like my partner who makes the DVDs, like what was the average of the people who were buying the DVDs, and we make a research together. It was all like over 30, over 35, over 40. So that's true. Like I think the old guys like my game, but I didn't plan that. You know, that just happened.
So If you end up in somebody's spider guard, say, a lasso on one side, foot on the bicep on the other, what's sort of your mental set of priorities for getting to your guard pass position? So like what goes through your brain? Like,
that's a very good question. I mean, like, I have been doing over-under since I was yellow belt, right? So since 2002. So first I learned how to do the over-under. Then I learned how to do the over-under better. Then I started learning how to sweep and get in the over-under. Then I started learning like how to get the over-under from all situations. So I'm humble. I don't mean it's gonna work. I don't mean it's gonna always work. But if you put me any type of guard, can be like De La Riva, spider, lasso, half guard, butterfly, I have a way to go to the over-under. I don't mean it's gonna work 100% of the times, and I'm always gonna get the over-under and pass your guard, but I have a way to get there. So, for example, if someone put me in the spider guard, in my mind, I have at least one or two variations to get to the over-under. If someone put me in the lasso guard, I have a way to get to the over-under from there. If someone put me in the De La Riva, in the butterfly, so I always have options to get there. And then it's jiu-jitsu, right? I'm going to try my options, my opponent's going to try his options, and whoever's better trained and with the better timing is going to get it.
Yeah. So, but it's probably even more specific than that. Like De La Riva, say, you probably have an option for if the guy grabs your left sleeve, if the guy grabs your right sleeve, if the guy grabs your lapel. Do you break it down that far? Because that changes the guard as well.
I agree. What I try to do is like, because I do so much this over-under and this type of passing, most of the times, for example, De La Riva is a good example. I don't wait the guy put his foot between my legs super tight, control my belt, control my sleeve. When he's going to De La Riva, that's the time I'm going to the over-under. So if you wait like he adjusts everything he has, it's going to be really tough. I agree. If you wait someone who does 50-50 guard to get the 50-50 and lock the legs, lock the triangle and control yours, it's going to be hard to go. But in that time that he's going, if you go to your position, you have a much higher chance. So it's a lot about like the technique and about the timing as well. You got to do in the right timing. And yeah, I think...
So it's a little bit like what's the best way to escape from side mount? Well, number one, don't let your guard get past. Number two, escape in the first second of side mount before the guy can get all his grips.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Or even if you cannot escape in the first second, adjust yourself before him. Don't let he adjust his side control. Adjust your defense. And that makes sense.
So now that you have a game plan, you're actually the example that I always go to for like, you want a game plan? I mean, there's a million different game plans, but your game plan is so clear for people to see that I always use you as an example. Plus, you're my friend. Once you have a game plan, how do you drill it? Like, how do you practice? You just do it every time in sparring, or how do you refine that game plan in your sparring and your training?
Yeah, I'm more a sparring guy than a drilling guy. Okay. Drilling, I don't see like drilling working super well for me. Instead of spending like 30 minutes drilling, I would rather spending 30 minutes doing sparrings, or with some tough guy or with some easy guy, and try to put my positions to work. I'm not like blaming who drills here, but sometimes drilling, like, it's kind of like a punch bag. If you just punch the bag doesn't react. So. The drilling, the guy is not moving. I like much better doing. What I like to do is this. For example, I come up with a new position, then I want to test if this works. Sometimes I don't even test in the sparrings. In the drilling time, like, let's do this technique. I ask my partner to like, man, put some resistance. Let me see here that's the way I like drilling. I like put some resistance. Let me see if this works. And then the guy say like, oh, I would do that. Okay, so now resist on this, and I'm gonna try to do that. So I like better when my partner is reacting. But also, again, there is no formula. I know a bunch of very successful guys in jiu-jitsu that they do drilling for hours, and it works really well for them. I heard that, for example, Rafael Mendes does a lot, and man, super tough guy and is making history. So I think there's no rule, but I know also a bunch of guys that they don't drill at all, and they are who they are. For example, Marcelo Garcia, Roger Gracie, I heard that he doesn't drill at all. Even like Lucas Lepper is like lightweight, and he doesn't drill at all. So it depends, you know. I mean, like some guys drill works very well for them, some guys doesn't. I think the most important part is for yourself, try to find a way to dedicate as much as you can, and in the same time try to find what's the formula that works for you. So try to drill, see if you're getting better, try to do more sparring, see if you're getting better, try to do that thing with the guy putting some resistance and find the best model for you.
And realistically, it's going to take you years to find out what we're like. If you're a white belt and you're losing sleep over should I be drilling, should I be sparring? I mean, I think that's the answer is yes. Do both, because you're just a white belt, right? You won't have a game plan yet. You won't know what works best for you.
I agree 1,000%. Like especially for white belts, you gotta do everything and see what's working better for you or not. And I agree 100%.
What about, we've kind of talked about your offensive game, your sweeps, your guard passes, your submissions. What about the defensive game? What about when you get trapped in a terrible position in a big match? Not in sparring, but you get mounted or something. What goes through your mind, and then sort of what are the steps that you're taking to get out of there?
I think I'm gonna come back to the sparrings a little bit more, because I feel I have a good defense game, not the best one in the planet, but I have very good defense. But the reason why, it's because, as we were talking before, I always try to train for the toughest guys that are on the mat. So I see if in one class there is Marcelo, Mateus, John, Marcus, and I'm gonna munch, and I'm gonna try to train for all of them. So every day I get my ass kicked. Every day. Someone is gonna kick my ass, 100% sure. Like maybe I'm gonna train well with Mateus, train well with John, and Marcelo is gonna kick my ass. Some days I'm gonna train well with Marcelo, train well with Munch, Mateus is gonna kick my ass. So every day. So every day I get my guard passed. Every day someone get the mount on me. Every day someone choke me. Every day someone. So then you start developing the defense, because you start like, oh man, he choked me on that way. Now next time I'm gonna defend here. Oh, he got my back and he didn't choke me because I was. So I think it's really important on training to put yourself in one position that you are training hard enough that people are kicking your ass. If you are winning every row, in my opinion, you are not training right, because you are not getting tired enough that the next guy is gonna beat you, That's how I think. I'm not the all of the truth here, but I think makes sense. And
I've seen you do that at your seminars too, right? You'll spar everybody often, and one after another, and all the people that you're sparring, they're taking it easy because they know they're going to be going against you. So, at the end of 15 rolls, you're tired. Even if it's just been blue belts and purple belts and brown belts, they're still going really hard. So you do put it into practice even in your seminars.
I agree, I just don't care if someone is gonna tell me. But Stephan, it was good that you remind. I remember that day, it was in Vancouver, and that day there was a very funny story that I don't even know if you realize it or not, but on that day I was sparring with everybody, and 1 week before I was double gold in the worlds. Man, I rolled with one guy that he was white belt, and he was super tough. He gave me a hard time, man. I mean, he went to my back, and he gave me a very hard time. And in my mind, I was like, man, but it was like my 6th or 7th row. I don't remember. I was already tired. But in my mind, I was like, man, I was double gold in the worlds last week, and this white belt's giving me a hard time. But man, this year he won his division in the worlds as a blue belt, and he got 3rd place in the open class. So then I was feeling better.
Made you feel, so I was like, at most other schools, he'd be a brown belt by now. Like
he would for sure.
Yeah, that guy. That guy's a phenomenal athlete and a killer, and he's also been held back, of course.
And he lived in São Paulo for 6 months, and he was training under Fabio. Fabio told me, Fabio Gurgel, man, he is crazy tough. You see, he's gonna win this words in the words, and then he won his division, got turned up and glass. But it was very fun, But it shows how jiu-jitsu is, because 1 week before I was double gold in the words. 1 week later I was training with everybody, and one white belt was training hard against me, And I ended up tapping him on that day, and was a good train, but it was tough, I was like, man, how can that be possible? He's white belt, and he's giving me a hard time. So it was very fun.
I had a very similar experience, man. Like 10, 15 years ago, I went down to California to train with Eric Paulson, and some big guy showed up, and he was just a blue belt, and he absolutely killed me. I was a blue belt, he was a blue belt, he murdered me, and I was like, man, I just don't deserve this blue belt. And then like a couple of months later, Rico Rodriguez won Abu Dhabi. It was Rico Rodriguez.
Was him?
Yeah, it's like, I felt a little bit better. I mean, he had... but
no, that's funny.
So it's like, okay, this guy shouldn't be a blue belt, and he's also got 50 pounds on. Like, you come up with all these excuses to make yourself feel better.
Oh, that's funny.
So, in the big matches, you're just about to go and face, I don't know, a really tough guy. What's going through your mind just as you sort of step on the mat and you're about to go train? I mean, when I look at you compete, it looks like you're pretty happy. It seems like you're actually in a pretty good, excited mental state of mind.
Yeah, nowadays, that's why this year I might do only the words, because I want to compete the tournaments that they're very happy, and I want to win because I want to win. And so after competing like too much, I'm not getting too excited anymore to go to the other tournaments. The words is the one that has the biggest value for me. There's not even money, but it's the prestigious, So, I mean, like, I believe that the toughest part is the training, So, if I train hard as I should, and I got there, I gotta be happy on that day, because I did all that hard part of the training, and I cannot be sad on that day. It's kind of like you prepare yourself to go to the party, and now you are in the party. Doesn't mean that you're gonna win the party, but you are there, so you gotta be happy. So that's how I try to think.
But you don't find that having some, like in MMA, you see a lot. If some champion retires, he comes back, they give him an easy fight as a warm-up just to get his head back in. You see people who've had long layoffs, like Ronda Rousey, come back and they're just not mentally there. You don't find the same thing for jiu-jitsu, or have you just done so much competition in the past that you don't need those warm-up competitions?
Man, I was thinking a lot about this year, because I might do only the words, but then I was exactly with this thoughts. I was like, man, should I do one more tournament before, or should I? Because maybe I'm gonna get there cold, and not warm up enough for tournaments, because my last tournament was the words. But then I started thinking, for example, Bruno Malfacini won last year. Man, he only did the words, from one words to the other words, he didn't compete nothing on between, I think. And man, he fought against in his division there was Kai Terra, there was João Miao, there was all these guys who were competing everything. And then Roger Gracie was the same thing. Even Bochecha, he won the words. Last tournament was the word. So if you see the numbers of jiu-jitsu, those guys who do only the words, many times they do well too, So it shows that this warm-up is more on your mind, I think,
Well, maybe the difference is that Bruno Malfacini and Roger Gracie have fought, hundreds and hundreds of tournament matches in their career, from white belt through to black belt, and you too. I mean, how many times have you competed? How many matches have you had from white belt through to now? Hundreds, I'm sure.
A lot, yeah, I think probably over 500 or so.
And so MMA guys don't have that. Ronda Rousey fought, I think, 9 or 10 times. I don't know here, but I'm guessing maybe that's the difference, that you've got such a vast experience competing.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm not 100% sure if Ronda Rousey is the perfect example because he came from judo, so he might have she might have competed a lot. But I agree with you. There are a bunch of MMA guys that they didn't have any background on any other sport. So if you see the entire career, they have like 20 matches. You know, in everything, even like putting every sports together. So that makes a lot of sense. And but even in jiu-jitsu, even you having like a bunch of tournaments, you always feel like you're scared, you know, man, how it's gonna be that day if I'm not competing for the last 12 months, you know, and I gonna get more nervous than the normal and blah blah. But I think it's gonna be okay because I want to do what I'm excited to do, you know. I don't want to compete something just because I want to warm up, but I didn't want to be here, you know.
For you, is excited pretty similar to nervous? Pretty similar to a little bit scared? Like, is that all one big emotion? Basically, it's just adrenaline and hormones, right?
Yeah, I think there's no way to not have adrenaline if that thing is important for you, you know. And the words is super important for me, and it's kind of hard to explain what's that, but I like that feeling, you know. I like to be there, and I always try to remember that I trained all my life to be where I am right now, you know. So now I don't want to quit and stop doing it. So it was really hard to get here, you know, to get in this top level. So now I want to try more, you know, I want to keep doing it. But also I don't want to do every month, you know. I want to do the ones that really, really matters for me.
So who's the toughest guy you ever faced?
Without doubles, Rodolfo Vieira.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the toughest.
It's
crazy tough. Like I don't know if it was about game. My game didn't match really well with his game. But super strong and clean jiu-jitsu as well. And I mean, like, perfect. Against me at least.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've got your plan for if he ever. He's not competing in jiu-jitsu anymore, is he? Or he's starting to make his career in MMA, you know. I think his first match is going to be like in 1 or 2 weeks in Brazil. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys ever meet 5 years from now or 10 years from now in the, you know, Masters, I'm sure you'll have a plan. I'm sure you've already been tailoring your plan.
I tried a lot of plans against him. It haven't worked yet, but maybe one day. But I'm cheering a lot for him in MMA. You know, very nice guy, and he's gonna represent our jiu-jitsu very well.
Okay, I know we covered this in our last interview, and if people want to listen to that, they should go back and look through my older list of podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud or wherever. But a lot of people are asking the same thing, and that's in terms of exercise and activity off the mat. What do you think is the best for people? And I know you also just did a YouTube video on this on your YouTube channel, so I'll link to that as well. But could you talk a little bit about sort of exercise and conditioning and what people should do to improve their jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, once again, it's going to come back to that thing, like you got to find your own formula. But in my opinion, I like doing some type of strength conditioning because when I don't do strength conditioning, I feel my body a little weak, so I feel I can get injured very easy. And also, when I'm doing strength conditioning, like as I should do, like very well done, I feel things in jiu-jitsu a little bit easier. Looks like I have that extra strength, you know, that extra conditioning, that extra gas, and so it works really well for me. Nowadays, I have a personal trainer. His name is Kevin Peretti. His studio is called Kindness. And he shares the training very well for me. So the first part of the training is strength. Second part is like power and speed. Third part is like specific trainings for jiu-jitsu.
So those three parts are all in one session, or those 3 parts you do a few months of one and then the other?
Few months. It's kind of like let's call like a 1 month and a half or 2 months. Like January and February, that's where I am right now. It's like all about strength. Then like March until middle of April, it's all about like power and speed. And the middle of April and moves for jiu-jitsu conditioning. June, in the words, I'm gonna be in the peak of my conditioning, and I think that works a lot for me. And even if you don't have a personal trainer, all my career I never had a personal trainer. You know, I have now for like since 2 years ago. Makes a huge difference. But even if you don't have it, what I would suggest is, for sure, you know someone who is a strength conditioning guy, and make a deal with him that he just have to write the plan for you, what you should work out. The next 2-3 months, what should I work out? I mean, like, should it be in one studio, or should I go to the gym? Or he might not even charge you, or if he charges, it's gonna be not expensive, because he's gonna work like one day and give you a plan for 3 months. And then you can do by yourself, you know. Having a personal trainer is better, because he's gonna push you when you gotta. If you have to do 10, he's gonna force you to do 12. When you do by yourself, you have to do 10. You end up doing 8. So I think it's good to have a guy pushing you. But if you don't have it, you can do all by yourself as well. I did all my career by myself. Only now, from 2 years to now. Then.
Well, you're a superstar now.
Keep going.
You're a superstar. Every superstar needs their personal trainer.
No.
So let's go a little bit deeper. You said for the month and a half or so, you're doing mostly strength. So what does it look like? Is that like squats, deadlifts, bench press, heavy rows, or is it something else?
Now, for example, the exercise I'm doing, I think it's 4. I start with squat, then I go and I do kind of like a push-ups, but it's like every push-up has to be 10 seconds. So I gotta go like very slow and come up. Very slow. It's gotta be 10 seconds for each push-up. So, man, it's tough. Try to do that. And it's not on the ground. It's like I grab something. But even if you do on the ground, I think it's not gonna be too much different. But it gotta be 10 seconds for each. And then I do 12, and then you finish like you're burning. So I do like squat, this one, deadlift, and I don't know what's the name. That one that you just pull up like the for the back.
Okay.
You put your knee on the
dumbbell rows.
Yeah, but the one you pull, I'm looking down and I pull up. Yeah. So just those 4 exercises 3 times each one, and I do 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I restart everything again. So squat, blah blah blah, 3 times. That's my strength training for right now. Then next part of the training is gonna be like power and speed. So it's a bunch of exercises that I gotta have speed as well. So jump here, jump there, do this, do that. It would be kind of similar to some type of CrossFit, but it's not CrossFit because it's not a group of people. It's like private with me. And then the last phase is gonna be specific moves for jiu-jitsu. So he pretty much pick up my game. Oh, you like to do over under, so he's gonna put something here. He's gonna put a punch bag on the mat, and I'm gonna pretend that I'm doing the over under, but there is a bunch of resistance pulling me, and then pretty much like exercise like that.
Yeah, you showed some of that on your Instagram a couple of years ago. And again, I'll link to that
exactly
in the article form of this podcast on Grapplearts, because it was really cool. You had exercises designed for your deep half guard sweep for standing up there.
Yeah, that's what we do. You have all this last phase of the training is all exercise designed for this.
Is there any cardio per se, or is it all sort of? I mean, I realize you're getting tired when you're doing it back to back, but are you ever just running on the treadmill or going to the elliptical or stair climber or anything like that?
Not with my coach. I have done that like in other phase of my career, like when I was kind of like training by myself and I had other plans. But with my coach, we don't do any of this. He says that the cardio I'm gonna get from the row, doing the jiu-jitsu, and I agree. Yeah. And I mean, like in my opinion, the most important part is the jiu-jitsu training. I mean, like the conditioning needs a help, but the jiu-jitsu is like if you do the conditioning perfect and you're training, you're not doing well, it's not gonna help you at all. Sometimes if you do the jiu-jitsu perfect and you don't do the conditioning that well, you can still win, because The jiu-jitsu is the most important part.
Yes.
Marcelo doesn't even do any conditioning. It's unbelievable. He doesn't do anything, just jiu-jitsu twice, and that works great for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's certainly a minority. It's hard to argue with somebody as successful as he is, but he is the exception in that regard. It does seem that almost everybody else does do some.
I agree with that. I mean, like, I agree 100% because every sport, every athlete does some type of strength and conditioning. So if you take the numbers, it's very rare you see someone who doesn't do anything. So what you said, it's true, I think.
So what makes Marcelo different in that regard? Like, is it just crazy genetics, or is it?
Man, I
have
think
no idea how he can pull it off.
I think in this level, like, it's a lot about mental game, and his mental is really strong, is really, really strong. So he believes in himself like a lot, in his mind, he can beat anyone. He's humble, he's not like, oh, man. But you see that in his mind, that he believes that he's going to beat anyone. And man, he trains crazy hard as well. He has his own way of training that's like twice a day, every day. But man, it's twice a day, every day. Yeah. Nowadays, he has family, he has kids, he's not competing. So once in a while, he doesn't train twice a day. But pretty much, he trains twice a day, every day. And even like he has some different type of mental stuff. For example, he would win the ADCC and he would train twice a day next day because in his mind, he should train those positions that worked well in the ADCC in the next day to make those positions work even better. And that worked for him, because you can see that his good positions are super tight, like the guillotine, when he goes to the back, is super, super tight. And then you looks like he did that on the tournament, and then next day he did it more and became kind of like a paste, he's pasting that position on you, And so for the way he thinks and the way he believes on his training, on his ability, it's unbelievable, he believes that thing is going to work, and he put the work, he works really hard with that belief. So works.
But if you did that, you're saying you're guessing your body would break down. What body part would break down for you first? Is it your back? A lot of jiu-jitsu guys.
Man, I don't know if it's because I'm heavier or... But man, when I compete those tournaments, next day I can barely walk, looks like I went some war. So I can't believe how he trained twice next day, But that's what I'm saying, each one has his own way, But many times, like after the tournament, I'm with a bunch of injuries, Like, man, my groin is hurting, my ribs is kind of popping, my shoulder... Because all the adrenaline and all the... So this doesn't work for me. Like train next day of the tournament and kill myself. It doesn't work, But everyone is different, And you got that's that thing, and you gotta find your own formula, And Marcelo found him, and his formula is good.
What's your formula for we've talked about your conditioning, we've talked about your training. What about for food? How I'm sure you've tried different dietary experiments over the years, and so what are you eating these days, and what's the craziest thing you've ever tried?
I have tried like all type of diets to cut weight, this and that, but I never needed to cut too much weight. So normally what I do is I try to eat healthy, and I try to eat like a little less than... When I have to cut weight, I just eat more healthy and less quantity. So, and then I ended up cutting weight. But it was never like a huge deal for me, because when I have to cut weight, it's like 8 or 9 pounds until June, so it's not hard. But, and I don't like to drop weight too much and fight in one division that I'm not used to, For example, if I would want to fight in the heavy division, 205, I mean, like that's not how I train with like 220, 225, 230. So I'm gonna find in one division that I'm not used about training on that weight. So my advice is like, if you gotta cut weight, make sure you cut weight way before, and then you can get used about the weight that you're gonna compete. So, and this is one mistake that I see many people doing.
So when you say you eat healthy, different people mean different things when they eat healthy. Some people say I eat healthy, and that means I eat nothing but vegetables. Other people say I eat healthy, and that means they're on some ketogenic paleo diet. Other people, I eat healthy, and that means, I don't know, I only have salt and vinegar chips and not, I've cut down on my Coca-Cola. What does eating healthy mean for you?
Eating healthy for me, the super healthy for me, it's to go to Whole Foods in the lunch and in the dinner. And then instead of eating rice, I eat quinoa. I eat a lot of salad and some breast chicken or something like that. This is eating healthy for me. So like a lot of salad, quinoa, and some breast chicken. But when I'm good on my weight, then I start eating like Japanese food, like sushi, this and that. It's still healthy, but then there's the like white rice, blah blah blah. Eating unhealthy for me, it's like when you start eating like a Mexican food, the sandwich. This is like what I do off season. I don't do that every day, but I do that more often. Like I eat some sandwich here, drink some soda over there. But when I'm trying to eat very healthy, I try to eat like on Whole Foods, like quinoa, salad, breast chicken, or fish or something like that. When I'm good on my weight, a lot of like Japanese food, this type of food, like healthy, but not like only salad. And when I'm off season, then I drink soda once in a while, and more like some things like that.
It's really interesting because you see again so many different diets, so many different people. Oh, I do the warrior diet. I only eat for 2 hours, in a 2-hour window each day, and it goes back to exactly what you said. Experiment. I've experimented and I've tried that, and it's something I could totally do when I did not have my kids around and I could just work and train. But as soon as that, the chaos of my family life gets into it, man, I'm angry with my kids. I'm low blood sugar. That diet just does not work for me when they're kids, of all things. There are some people who that's their best diet. So I guess it just all goes to what you're saying is experiment and see what works for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree 100%. Like you gotta experiment and see what works good for you, and try to play around with the fat percentage as well. Try to not stay too high, because maybe the guy can say like, "Oh no, but I'm eating very well, this and that," but he's still like overweight and with a very big percentage of fat in the body. So I always try to keep my fat percentage kind of like low, and then I know that I'm healthy and I'm not lying to myself. Yeah.
I'm just looking at all these questions that I've got coming in still, and there's no way we're going to get through them all. I'm going to ask you a couple more technical questions because more than one person has asked it, and then maybe I'll talk to you after, and we'll try and do some stuff by YouTube if you're willing to do that. We'll
okay.
I'll send you some of the questions, and maybe you can film an answer, and then we'll put them on your channel, we'll put them on my channel, and link to your channel. We'll figure something out.
We can do that.
More than one person has asked some variant of this question. They're saying, man, I like doing half guard, or one guy's, I like doing deep half guard, but I keep on getting arm locked. I get Kimura'd or I get Americana'd when I'm fighting from the bottom in half guard. So what do I do to protect my arms from those guys who are hunting for those bent arm locks from the top?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would need to show this. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard explaining, but normally what I do is like, if you're doing deep half guard and you let the guy on top comfortable, he can attack your arms. So every time I feel that he's thinking about attack my arms, I try to bump him up, and then I force him to post his hands on the mat. Once he has his hands on the mat, there is no Kimura, there is no Americana. So I want to force to have his hands busy. I don't want to let his hands free and he can take his time to do whatever he wants. So every time I feel that he's thinking about some attack, I force him to busy his hands. Okay. And then there's no attack. So that's pretty much. But I would need to show.
Well, why don't we make that one of the YouTube videos that we'll figure out how to get to the people somehow? And
great.
So here's another question that a couple different people have asked in a couple different ways. So you're a reasonably big guy, and your guard passing game is attrition. It's based, right? You're putting a lot of weight on the guy. You're tiring him out. Maybe you pass his guard once, and he reguards, but now he's tired, and you pass his guard a second time, and now he's really tired. And what about, you've taught a lot of people, what about lighter guys using the over-under pass or fighting even people bigger than them? Is that a useful pass, or is this mostly a big guy pass and a big guy strategy?
I think definitely helps more the big guy because you can use your weight in your favor, but it's also possible for the lighter guys to do. I remember in my hometown, for example, there was one guy, Leonardo Saggiore. Nowadays, he's living in Canada, in Montreal, and all he used to do was over-under pass, and he was very successful. He won the worlds as a purple belt, he got second as a brown belt. As a black belt, he got third place. He lost to Cobrinha, and he won the Brazilian Nationals twice, beating Mario Hayes and this and that. So all about over-under as well, being very tight over that. And he was featherweight. So I know that works for buff, but I think definitely can favor more as much heavy as you are, more it's going to work because you're going to put more weight on top then, and this and that. And also, again, it matches with the older grapplers because most of the times when you get old, we get heavy too, so it helps.
So you're talking light guy fighting light guy versus big guy fighting big guy. What about a light guy fighting a big guy, or is it the same answer? Can a smaller guy use it against a bigger guy?
It's pretty much the same answer, because you can still doing, it's gonna be the same thing. You just gotta need to keep pushing until the big guy gets tired of defending, and then you're gonna pass. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much the same answer, but definitely if you are heavy, it's gonna be easier.
Yeah, and I think it was one of our mutual friends who pointed out that attrition-based game, just wearing the guy down. I think some people have this idea that you should just be able to use technique and magically appear on someone's back. But, grinding the guy down is part of the game, is it not?
I agree because, if you have a good game, that your techniques are always working against the guy, he's going to get more tired than you, and then it's going to open a bunch of doors for you, You can see getting a submission in tournament in the first minute sometimes is really hard, but after the 5, 6, 7 minutes that you pass the guy's guard, you got him on, you got it back, then he start giving up things, and that's the good time to take the opportunity.
Awesome. Okay, I think I'm going to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. I think we got through a good hunk of the questions. We'll do a few more with YouTube, and maybe in another, we'll do a third interview, and you'll be the first ever three-time visitor to the Grapplearts Podcast.
Thanks so much, Stephan. It's a big pleasure here.
Awesome.
And also, again, congrats about the huge work that you do online for the Jiu-Jitsu community. It's very cool.
It's my hobby and it's my passion, so I'm enjoying the work.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks so much, Bernardo. Good luck with your training.
Thank you, Stephan. Thank you.